Under current Maryland law, this fight would not be a reportable offense for any of the students involved because it happened on school grounds. But a new bill making its way through the State House is looking to change that. House Bill 526, cross-filed with Senate Bill 386, would change the definition of reportable offenses to include incidents that occur at school and school-sponsored events. Now, joining us live to talk about those proposed changes are two of the House bill's co-sponsors, Delegates Jason Buckel and April Miller. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Mikenzie.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Delegate Miller, I want to start with you. Why is this bill necessary given the concerns that we're seeing with school safety right now?
I think school safety is so important to all of us in our committee. We hear, because we sit on the education committee, we hear a lot about incidents that happen in school and trying to find different ways to protect students. And this bill came out of some of the glaring gaps that we know in how we can keep students safe and what is reported to the school system, what's reported to our SROs, and whether or not the offense happened on or off school. There's been a lot of incidents, especially in Harford County, where there have actually been sexual assaults and rapes and all kinds of violent issues that happen at school, on school grounds. And because of the way the legislation currently stands, because of the way the law currently stands, they don't have to report it. They have their own process by which they report. And so we want to make sure that those kids are protected.
Delegate Buckel, right now there seems to be a concern that not every law enforcement agency is reporting these type of offenses under the current law as it stands. Do you believe that is the case as well, given the numbers that we're seeing from the latest report?
There sure seems to be a reason to suspect that, whether that's intentional, whether it's policy-based, or whether it's just folks who don't really understand what they're supposed to do. This should be pretty common sense, and it's important to note that these things that you just saw, happening in Baltimore County, Baltimore City, they're happening in my community too, in Western Maryland. I don't know exactly what's going on. I have an 8-year-old little boy. I'm terrified looking to the future, sending him to middle school and high school and looking at these fights. This is not normal, and something has gone wrong with our system and with the folks working in our system. If you're engaged in that type of violent assault that we just saw and that we've seen other examples of, I don't care if that's on school grounds and you're in 8th grade or 10th grade or whatever grade you are, that's a crime. Those children who are involved in that, other than just defending themselves, certainly we want to protect kids' ability to self-defend, but those kids who are the instigators of that and are just committing these terrible violent acts, they need to be treated just the same as if they did that in a mall or a parking lot or any place else. They need to be brought under control. They need to be reported to juvenile services, brought to the state's attorneys, brought to law enforcement, and it needs to become a reportable offense so that sticks with them, so that people understand, hey, this kid has had a problem. It's not to stigmatize them for life. It's to make sure that they get the appropriate interventions and the appropriate consequences to hopefully change their behavior.
It seems like there are two different tracks of these reportable offenses that seem to be of concern right now. There's the incidents that may happen on school grounds, and that's what your bills would really deal with. But then also the incidents that happen off school grounds that may never be reported properly under the current state law. Have you heard of any other legislation, perhaps from your Democratic colleagues, Delegate Miller, in your committee, any conversations about this to ensure that everyone knows what is required, everyone has a clear understanding of the law, so that these school systems have a clear understanding of what's really going on?
Yes, and one of the reasons why we brought the bill is because there is a gap, especially when it becomes the Department of Juvenile Services. The state's attorney's office is tasked with reporting the offenses and reporting it to school systems, but the Department of Juvenile Services is not. So most court cases involving minors are sent to Department of Juvenile Services, not the court system. So the school system doesn't receive any resolution to the charges. They don't know what's happened, and that's very important with protecting victims and protecting other students who actually may be sitting in the same class with them. So this has that missing piece that we would require Department of Juvenile Services to get involved and to get involved with the school system so that we can close the gap, and that school systems have all the information they need to have their school safety meetings that impact the safety of the entire community at the school.
Let me just ask you really quickly as a follow-up to that. Do you believe that DJS would be capable to provide that level of information given the reporting concerns that we're already seeing with the department?
It's that's a real concern. The Department of Juvenile Services is broken, I think, and we've talked about this before in other contexts over the last year or two, Mikenzie. The pendulum has swung too far. 5, 8, 10, 12 years ago in Maryland, you saw this policy pendulum, and the Department of Juvenile Services reflects it of, we just want to be soft, we want to be restorative, that's a great word, we want to have second chances, third chances, sixth chances. I want that too. I don't want kids to get on the wrong path and wind up spending their careers and their lives in criminality. But the pendulum swung too far, where we have DJS and other reporting agencies that are almost intentionally not reporting information. You saw it happen to the individual in Harford County that was supposed to be under monitoring in Anne Arundel County for a very serious violent offense. Wasn't really under monitoring. They didn't tell anyone in Harford County, and he wound up killing someone, while a student in the school, and he had a loaded handgun in school. That can't happen. People make mistakes. The world isn't perfect. But when the policy sort of reflects that, it just doesn't work. And DJS they've got a lot to answer for, I think, going forward. They can be a big part of solving this problem or a big part of continuing to cause it.
All right, delegates, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to following this. I know there's a hearing coming up on this bill, I believe, next week, so we'll keep our eyes peeled for that and keep us updated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mikenzie.
I'm Kai Jackson. Thank you for watching. Here's another video to watch. Also, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel.